What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday's aftermarket part that was added to Modern Warfare 3 is the JAK Protean Kit for the RAAL MG. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a deep dive into this, sharing exactly how this works, as well as some excellent attachment combinations I put together for you guys. And without further ado, let's dive right into this with our pros and cons, which we can't trust at all. They don't make any sense. Like, it says it improves our damage range and bullet velocity and range. Both of those are not true at all. Our damage ranges are identical. Our bullet velocity is identical. It says it improves our recoil control, but we get far worse recoil, which we'll see in a little bit. And it also says that it harms our rate of fire when it actually helps our rate of fire. So when it comes to those, just completely ignore them. However, with the advanced stats, they are accurate, at least for full auto mode. They don't show you what happens in semi-auto, so I will be diving deep into that for you guys. But the main things to point out here is, first off, in full auto with this kit, it eliminates your upper torso multiplier and headshot multiplier. It also harms all of our mobility stats, it hurts our handling stats, it hurts our hip fire, but it does help with our rate of fire. So let's dive deeper into that. Again, just sticking to the full auto mode for now, and we'll get into semi-auto in just a little bit. And when it comes to our damages, like I said, you lose those multipliers, and what this means is in that maximum damage range, instead of having a 3-shot kill potential with upper torso shots, now we no longer have that potential, and it's just a 4-shot kill anywhere in the body, including the head. So it is going to take that extra shot to kill up close, and also in the minimum damage range at long ranges, instead of having a 4-shot kill potential, it's now going to be a 5-shot kill anywhere in the body. As for our rate of fire though, like we saw in the advanced stats, it is improved with this kit, up to 659 rounds per minute, although it is worth noting, our open bolt delay doesn't change. This is still quite slow at 72 milliseconds. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, what this means is when you pull the trigger, the gun doesn't fire immediately. It takes 72 milliseconds before that first shot is fired, which can make a big difference in a gunfight. Now, even though we do have that faster rate of fire with this kit, since it's taking us that extra bullet to kill, we've got a noticeably slower time to kill at 273 milliseconds up close, and that's before the open bolt delay. For your true time to kill, you would also add the open bolt delay on top of that, which means it's just not a very competitive gun in full auto. As for ranges, like I said, despite what the pros and cons state, our range values are identical in full auto at least, and our bullet velocity is also unchanged with this kit. And then finally, for the individual stats for full auto here, let's have a look at our recoil, which is noticeably worse than the base gun. You can see it has a lot more horizontal recoil to it. It also tends to bounce around a decent amount, and the vertical magnitude is also higher on this. So overall, it's just worse when it comes to your recoil and your time to kill with the same range values, and therefore, I really don't see any solid reason to use this over the base version of the RAAL MG in full auto mode. In saying that though, semi-auto mode is a very different story here, and it turns out with the base RAAL MG, we do get a different damage profile in semi-auto compared to full auto. We actually deal a little bit more damage overall, and with that base gun, we have a 3-shot kill potential to the body at any range. However, we get an even better boost when we put this kit on and swap it over to semi-auto mode. As we can see here, our lower leg damage isn't great still, but our knee up damage is incredible at 100 up close, and that only drops off to 80 at really long ranges, which means it's a 2-shot kill to the body at any range. And when it comes to headshots, you can see we deal 150 damage to the head in the maximum damage range, and that means this is actually a 1-shot kill to the head in the maximum damage range as long as you're in semi-auto mode. So there are some very clear benefits here if you are swapping this over to semi-auto when it comes to the number of shots to kill. Although there is one little quirk I wanted to point out with body multipliers. While we do have a massive body multiplier zone, it's actually slightly different on one leg versus the other. On the character's right leg, we actually have a slightly smaller damage multiplier zone. Instead of from the knee up, it's more like from the upper thigh and up. Whereas on their left leg, it will extend all the way down to their knee. So a little bit strange. I'm sure this will likely get patched at some point. They do make this mistake every now and then. At the end of the day, as long as you're shooting them in the torso though, you should be just fine with this. And now let's have a look at our rate of fire in semi-auto mode, which surprisingly, it's the opposite of what we saw in full auto. We actually see a reduced rate of fire value in semi-auto at 287 rounds per minute. Keeping in mind, we still have that exact same open bolt delay. This kit doesn't change that at all, and semi-auto doesn't change that at all. However, since we're killing in 1 less shot to kill at just 2 shots, our time to kill potential is noticeably better than the base version of the gun at just 209 milliseconds, and even with the open bolt delay factored in there, that's still a very solid and competitive time to kill in this game. As for ranges, unlike with full auto, we actually see different range values here, and you might have noticed when we were looking at the damage multipliers, we actually have a ton of different damage drop-off points. In fact, I didn't even include every single one of them there just because it would take up too much space, and there's only one that's really relevant since it's got that 2-shot kill potential at any range, so it doesn't really matter if you're dropping off from 94 damage to 92 damage because that doesn't change the number of shots to kill at all. The only really relevant damage drop-off point with this is our maximum damage range, because that is our 1-shot kill potential range to the head. And that range value is 24.5 meters. So if you are going for that 1-shot headshot, that's the range value you want to be considering. But outside of that, just make sure you're not shooting them in the lower legs, and you'll be getting a very consistent 2-shot kill at any range. But then finally, for the semi-auto specific stats, let's have a look at our recoil compared to the base gun. And as we can see here, we've actually got noticeably less recoil, and that's largely due to that reduced fire rate. But there's also just less recoil with that first bullet you fire. It actually climbs up a bit with the base version of this gun, whereas that doesn't really happen with this kit. You get a nice tight grouping there. So unlike full auto, you can see there is a ton of potential in semi-auto mode when using this kit. And therefore, that's the primary class setup I wanted to share for you guys today. However, before we get into that, I just wanted to point out a couple extra things to note when using this kit. The first thing is the moment you put this kit on, it will block off your barrel attachment slots, as well as your underbarrel attachment slots. And then on top of that, it does give you a free hybrid optic. And you can see there's a higher zoom version, and then you can swap over to a lower zoom holographic version. And honestly, it's not a bad optic. However, you can actually get a faster aim down sight time if you put some of the regular lower zoom optics on. So I often will opt for that instead of sticking with this hybrid optic. And then finally, with this kit, it does give you a free bipod attachment as well. So you can go prone and just mount anywhere. You don't need a surface to mount on. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into my favorite setup to use with the JAK Protean conversion kit. And this is my semi-auto build. With this one, we're using the quartermaster suppressor to stay off the radar, and we get some nice recoil benefits there. We're using the Corio LAZ44 laser to help with our aim down sight speed, as well as our aiming idle sway, which is quite important since this gun does have a fair amount of idle sway. We've got the JAK glassless optic on there, partially for firing aim stability improvements, but also because we actually get a faster aim down sight time compared to the built-in hybrid optic. We've obviously got the kit itself, and then I'm also using the smallest magazine possible, which is that 50-round mag. And the reason behind this is 50 rounds is way more than enough in semi-auto mode with this gun. That's going to last you for a very long time, and it improves our handling stats a little bit, as well as our reload time. So with this particular build, you can see we still have a very accurate gun on our hands. Our aim down sight speed is quite slow, but for an LMG, it's not horrible at 328 milliseconds. And it's a similar story with our sprint out time. It's not amazing, but it's also not bad for an LMG at 185 milliseconds. Obviously, this isn't the type of gun where you want to be rushing into a gunfight. You definitely want to try to make sure you're prepared for the fight before it happens. Like I said, we do get a slightly faster reload time, even though it's still painfully slow at 5.18 seconds. And then with that quartermaster suppressor, we're off the radar when we're firing. And with this setup, I just found this is the best overall to use in semi-auto. It's balanced really nicely. You get a really solid time to kill potential. You have that 1-shot headshot potential as well, out to 24.5 meters. However, the one big thing to keep in mind here is it can be a little difficult to hit your shots at times, especially on moving targets, just due to that open bolt delay. That is something that will screw with your aim from time to time, because you might be on target the moment you pull the trigger. However, 72 milliseconds later, when your gun actually goes off, many times I find myself off target at that point because the enemy player is moving around so much, and therefore you can sometimes feel like you've got potato aim while using this, compared to if you were using a marksman rifle that has a 2-shot kill and no open bolt delay. And there we go. I consider that to absolutely be the best build when using this kit. However, just for variety's sake, I do want to share a full auto variant of this for those of you guys that might want to try that. Although, just to be clear, if I'm using full auto on the RAAL MG, I would honestly rather not be using this kit. I would rather use the base version of this gun. But I will share this for you guys anyway, for those of you that might want to try it out. And it turns out it's actually the exact same build as the previous one, with one exception. I removed that 50-round magazine since we actually want a slightly larger magazine, since we will burn through those fairly quickly with a faster fire rate. And instead, I put the Stip 40 grip on, which is just going to help a bit more with recoil control, and this gun absolutely needs that when you're in full auto mode. And speaking of that recoil, it is still fairly high. It's not the easiest gun to control, but it's at least more manageable than if you weren't using all these attachments. Our aim down sight speed and sprint out times are slower, so you've got to play even more methodically than the semi-auto version of this. And our time to kill potential isn't great. So honestly, I don't really recommend this, but I do want to at least share this for variety's sake for you guys. And with that, that is going to wrap it up today's video on the JAK Protean Kit for the RAAL MG. And when it comes to my thoughts on this, obviously in full auto, I think it really sucks. I definitely wouldn't recommend it at all. But in semi-auto, I was very pleasantly surprised. I actually find it to be quite an enjoyable gun to use. It's got a lot of potential to it, but it's also kept in check with that open bolt delay, which can make it a bit hard to have consistent precision, and it's something you do have to play around with a little bit. So I don't consider it to be like completely overpowered or anything, but it definitely has a lot of potential there. Now, of course, these are just my thoughts on this kit, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in those comments down below. Are you guys generally enjoying this kit, or not so much? If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.